Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Ben. I'm the guy behind the 8 digits primer, and today I thought I was going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a replay analysis and commentary of one of my recent cEDH games, walking through some of my thought process in real time. The goal here is to give you some insight on how to pilot the Krark Sakashima deck in actual gameplay scenarios, not just goldfishing or theory crafting on the Oxfield playtester. So this game was played on the cEDH UK Discord server with some of my regular playgroup, and you can find a link to that Discord at the top of the primer if you're interested in joining. It's a really great community. Okay, so let's jump straight in. In this game, I'm in the first seat. I'm followed by James in seat 2, playing Kinnan, Bond of Prodigy, Jay in seat 3, playing Timna Kadama, and Riley in seat 4 on Rograk Thrasios. So before I even start mulliganing, I want to highlight what I'm thinking about going into the game. So being in first seat, I want to push early if I'm given the opportunity by my deck. So I'm looking for hands with Rituals and Jeska's Will, Harmonic Prodigy, but these kind of explosive, aggressive cards that can really push me ahead early and maybe get an early win before my opponents have finished setting up. On the flip side of that, another approach I can take is that I know that all three of these decks are pretty creature-heavy decks. Rograk Thrasios is a Cradle deck, Timna Kadama and Kinnan both are on a lot of mana dorks, both very green dork heavy. So as a backup plan, I'm also looking for efficient creature interaction stuff. Gut Shot, End the Festivities, Lightning Bolt, these kind of cards that can help me push through the early game against these decks and maybe go for a more mid-range plan and win after I've shut them down. So yeah, my main concern is getting through the early game without getting run over by Kinnan or Rogthras. I either want to be quicker than them or I want to avoid losing to them early. Timna Kadama can be a problem later. The deck does get better the later the game goes, but I feel pretty confident navigating that matchup. I think my deck has a pretty good matchup into it. So if we get there, I think I'll be okay. So it's not really shaping my mulligan choices too heavily. So my first 7 that I was offered is Floodstrand, Training Center, Desperate Ritual, Jeska's Will, Bergie, Mana Confluence, and an offer you can't refuse. This hand is pretty close. Jeska's Will, a Ritual, Bergie, it's looking like a lot of the stuff that I was asking for in my pre-mulligan thoughts. But there just isn't a clear plan here. It's not quite fast enough. I don't have a way to get Krark on the battlefield quickly. It's going to be a long time. I'm casting Krark on turn 2, maybe drawing a land, casting Jeska's Will on turn 3. It's just not really what I want in seat 1. I wanted a little bit more. A Chrome Mox or something would maybe take this hand over the edge. But anyway, I go to my second 7. And this time I'm offered Spellskite, an offer you can't refuse, Bolt, Ancient Tomb, Simian Spirit Guide, Shivan Reef, and Grape Shot. Again, this hand is almost there. I've got a turn 1 Krark, a turn 2 Spellskite, I've got the Bolt that I mentioned that I wanted. I think there's a world where this is a keep, but being in the first seat, I decided to be a little bit greedier and dig for something more aggressive or fast winning. So I go down to 6, but there is consideration for potentially keeping this hand. So my 6-card hand included Fairy Mastermind, Lotus Petal, City of Brass, Imperial Recruiter, Desperate Ritual, Fiery Islet, and Overmaster. Again, this isn't the explosive hand that I was hoping for, but at this point I'm hesitant to go deep on my mulligans. Without card draw in the command zone, going deep into mulligans can really hurt this deck. So instead, I opt to keep this as it does have options and it does have a plan in mind. There's a potential for a turn 1 Krark or a turn 1 Fairy Mastermind, depending on what I draw. There's a Ritual there. That ritual can cast the Imperial Recruiter, which can give me Spellseeker, it could give me Harmonic Prodigy, it could give me Dualcaster Mage, it could, that opens a lot of doors for me and gives me options. So I decided to keep this, and I bottomed the Overmaster. It felt like the weakest card in my hand, and there's a lot of cantrips in the deck. I can quite easily find a replacement for this. So Overmaster goes to the bottom. So that's the setup. I'll be trying to keep track of my hand throughout the game, pausing whenever there's something interesting to break down, whether it's decision making, pivoting, sequencing, or anything that I could have done better. So we'll start the actual game and we'll see how it plays out, and I'll be back when something cool happens. So, start of the game here, we've all mulliganed, ready to go, and Jay and Riley both have Gemstone Caverns as pre-game actions, so pretty strong. Notably, Riley gets rid of the Born Upon a Wind here, which is pretty good for us. So we're going to draw our cards and we draw into the Floodmoor. This is actually going to help us decide what we're doing on our turn 1. We have this Fairy Mastermind, but we have the option to cast the Krark. I decided that it's probably better to hold up the Fairy Mastermind because this way I get to hold up into the Floodmoor as well, just in case anything crazy happens. So we're going to hope that somebody plays an Esper Sentinel or something and just flash in our Fairy Mastermind. So James is going to fetch for Trot, shortcut that and play Mox Diamond, and a little bit of a think here, play Findhorn Elves. So just setting up, just normal kin stuff, playing some mana, and he's going to go and find his Trop. So Jay will untap, play Exotic Orchard. I've turned that on with my City of Brass there, so good for him. Carrion Feeder comes down, and Esper Sentinel comes down, which we love to see. Well, we love and hate it. It's obviously not great because we're probably going to feed this quite a few cards throughout the game, but we have a Fairy Mastermind, so we don't mind that too much. So Riley's going to come in, plays an Ancient Tomb, potential for a turn 1 Ristic here for him. But it's just a Rogrek, plays Lotus Petal, triggering the Esper Sentinel. So Jay will get a free card there. Let's see what Riley does now. So he's going to play Candelabra. Really nice card to get online for Riley. He's going to activate the Candelabra to untap the Ancient Tomb, making his Candelabra effectively free, which was cool. And we'll see a Cryptolitherite come down. This card, really, really good in Riley's deck. And he's following it up with the Chatterstorm as well, which is super crazy. So he passes to Muz. We flash in the Fairy Mastermind in Riley's end step, and he's just going to make the squirrels now. So Riley's off to a really great start. So we're going to untap. We draw Scalding Tarn, which we're just going to play. The reason we played the Scalding Tarn over the Fiery Islet there is obviously it thins our deck by a card, taking the Volcanic Island out of our deck, but it also gives us a mountain and an island for our Submerge and our Mog Salvage, which we might draw off Fairy Mastermind. So yeah, I'm finding my Volcanic Island now. I smacked Riley with the Fairy Mastermind just for the free damage, and passed over to James, who is playing a Treasure Vault, casting a Kinnan, and a Simic Signet. So playing his Kinnan, playing some more Mana Rocks. He's got a Treasure Vault online, so he's a Basalt Monolith away from winning. Go to Jay here. There's a bit of a discussion, some politics happening where Jay has to look at the card in Riley's hand. It's Scalding Tarn. I think Jay was looking at destroying the Cryptolitherite. goes for a Delighted Halfling and an Imperial Seal instead. This is pretty scary with the Carrion Feeder. Might get Pattern of Rebirth or something. But we go over to Riley. Scalding Tarns for an island. Casts his Thrasios. And then activates it using the squirrels for mana, thanks to Cryptolith Right. Scries away, finds a Cloud of Fairies. Really, really great card in Riley's deck. Luckily for us, he hasn't got access to the Cradle yet. We draw Strike It Rich for our turn after Riley passes. Oh no, we drew that off Fairy Mastermind, sorry. And then we drew Gutshot for turn. We play the Fiery Outlet. So yeah, super happy to draw the Gutshot for turn there. It's one of the cards that we wanted in our pre-game discussion. So here, I'm slamming the Desperate Ritual. The idea here being if I get heads, I can cast Imperial Recruiter. I would have leftover red mana, which I could sink into the Strike It Rich, and make treasures, which I could then use to cast whatever I got off the Imperial Recruiter, whether that was Spellseeker for End the Festivities or anything like that. So yeah, unfortunately we get tails though, so we just carry on. We're still holding up our Gutshot and they're into the Floodmaw, so I'm not particularly scared. So going on to James' turn, he plays a Finale for 5. Riley activates a Thrasios and finds Talon Gates off the top of his deck, phasing out the Kinnan, which is super lucky. I was considering Gutshotting the Kinnan there. I think if Riley didn't activate Thrasios, there's a world where I am doing that and Gutshotting that Kinnan to stop the Seaborn Muse advantage. But either way, James passes after the Seaborn Muse. He untaps with Jay, and Jay just passes turn, doesn't do anything. And we go over to Riley, who is doing some Thrasios spins. He finds this town ain't big enough. That triggers our Fairy Mastermind, and we draw Expedite, which is great. Some more card draw, replacing that Overmaster that we got rid of. I'm looking up Thraben Charm here. Jay said that he had a Thraben Charm for the Cryptolith Right. I think that's why he's passing. He's holding that up just in case Riley gets a 2 ahead of himself. So we see a Frantic Search come down here for Riley. Again, really great. We're lucky he doesn't have a Cradle. Free card for Jay from Esper Sentinel, and the Frantic Search is going to resolve. So at the moment I'm thinking about where I'm going with this. I want my Desperate Ritual to happen. I want Imperial Recruiter for Harmonic Prodigy and then cast the Expedite a bunch. Like, I'm trying to work out where I want to go from here. I've got pretty good tools available to me. So I'm on limited time though, because once that Kinnan comes back with the Seaborn Muse, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. So I might have to use my Into the Flood more. But for now, in Riley's end step, we're just going to make the most of our mana, cast the Expedite. Jay's going to draw a card off Esper Sentinel, so we're going to draw a card off Fairy Mastermind, and we draw Riverpire Verge. And then we win our flip. Importantly, a thing to note here is I'm targeting the Carrion Feeder with both of these Expedites. I think that Jay probably put a Pattern of Rebirth on top of his deck, so I'm trying to bait him to sacrifice the Carrion Feeder by targeting it with the Expedites. Because if he sacrifices his Carrion Feeder, I won't be able to draw the cards, but it actually works out for me because I'm probably not losing to the Pattern of Rebirth. So Jay passes, and Riley takes the bait instead and wants to overload a Cyclonic Rift to get rid of the Carrion Feeder. James offers a draw here with a Pact of Negation, which I decline. I think I'm in a pretty good position. Like I said, I've got a lot of options in my hand here, and my board isn't that big anyway, so I don't really care about it getting rifted away. So, yeah, I decline the draw. James floats some mana. The rift happens, and everything comes back to my hand, and I don't draw any cards off my Expedite, unfortunately, but at least we got rid of the Carrion Feeder. With the floating mana, James cracks his treasure vault to make a couple of treasures, and Jay, with his floating mana, flashes in opposition agent. So my Imperial Recruiter dreams kind of end here, but we'll be okay. I draw Rite of Flame, which is a really nice card to draw here. I also drew Riverpire Verge off of a Fairy Mastermind trigger, I believe. So draw our land for turn. Replay our Krark. And again, James is really playing for a draw here. Feels like he's got no hope left. Casts a Pact of Negation, or offers me a draw with Pact of Negation. But again, I'm going to decline. I think I have enough with the Gut Shot and the Into the Floodmoor to stop Riley. I think the opposition agent is also helping, and I have enough mana to be able to recast the Krark, so I feel quite confident declining the draw here. And just seeing if I can beat Riley. So James's Kindred phases back in. He uses the treasures and his land to pay for the Pact of Negation trigger and just passes turn. And we go to Jay, who slams the Thraben Charm to get rid of the Cryptolith and redeploys the Esper Sentinel. It's really going to help me out. It slows down Riley a lot, which is going to give me time to re-establish my Krark. And now I probably don't have to use my Gut Shot on the squirrels or anything anymore, because they don't tap for mana anymore. So Riley slams a Biomancer's Familiar. This card's really, really great for him right now. He's got the Thrasios out and an Ancient Tomb. He's just a Cradle away from killing us all, I think. So we are on borrowed time here. So yeah, he's going to activate the Thrasios here. Finds the Nature's Rhythm. Doesn't look too happy about that with the opposition agent on the battlefield. Activates his Candelabra to untap the Ancient Tomb, and I play the Fairy Mastermind. I could have played the Fairy Mastermind in response to the Thrasios activation. It's a slight misplay there, but hopefully it doesn't bite us. Draw Manamo. So again, find our land drop, which is fortunate, and we play the Desperate Ritual. Jay gets a card from us, but maybe Jay's earned that card. He's helped us out quite a lot with the opposition agent and the Thraben Charm, so yeah, he can have a card from us. So I'll make the 3 red mana, pay an extra, and cast the Krark, and we're back to where we were, before the Cyclonic Rift and after a Pact. So we're recovering pretty well here. Had to expend a ritual for it though. So Riley's spinning Thrasios here in response to my Krark, and he finds a Commandeer. So that's a nice thing that we know about. And I'm going to send out this Rite of Flame. Again, my kind of idea here is if I can play the Into the Floodmoor and get rid of the opposition agent, maybe play Imperial Recruiter, maybe play Strike It Rich a few times, or even just make some red mana and tap the Fiery Islet and cast Sakashima. I had quite a few options there, but I end up getting Tails and it comes back to my hand, so we're just going to hold up the Into the Floodmoor again. James is going to redeploy the Mox Diamond and the Simic Signet, trying to get back to his pre-Rift board state. He's going to pass. So we get to Jay. And Jay is going to deploy a couple of mana dorks here. I think Jay does have some interaction in his hand here, I think. But he feels quite far behind compared to Riley and me, just being able to develop my board. And Jay's kind of just been interacting with Riley, so yeah, he deploys his mana dorks and kind of says it's up to me now. So we'll see. We'll see if I can manage. So Thrasios is being activated here. We find Deflecting Swat. Not really what we want to see with the Gut Shot and the Into the Floodmoor. Fairy Mastermind triggers and draws us Vivi or Nishia, which is a really, really nice draw for us. Thrasios activates again and finds Kinnan. And then Candelabra is activated to untap the Ancient Tomb. Thrasios activated again. And the land is found. So, really happy to find the VV here. Probably going to help us win, especially with Gut Shot and the Rite of Flame and stuff. So, I draw Might of the Meek as for turn, so another cantrip. Really, really great. This is why we can mulligan away the Overmaster. Like I said, we just have so many cantrips in our deck that, you know, we're not too worried about putting one to the bottom. So we're just going to slam the VV here, and then I'm going to play Rite of Flame. Again, I'm trying to make some red mana. I'm going to cast Strike It Rich. I'm going to cast this Might of the Meek. I maybe cast Imperial Recruiter, and I'm going to make some mana with VV while I'm at it. So I've got a VV trigger on the stack here, and James is going to have another go. So again, he offers me a draw here with the Cyclonic Rift targeting my VV. I decline that draw, and I cast Gut Shot targeting Riley's Biomancer's Familiar. The Biomancer's Familiar is doing quite a lot of work for Riley at the moment, letting him activate Thrasios. And I've just seen that Riley's drawn a Deflecting Swat off his Thrasios, so I really want to get that out of his hand so my Into the Floodmoor has a bit more text. All in all, this just works out great for me. It triggers my VV. So I'm going to be able to float a mana before the Cyclonic Rift bounces the VV back to my hand. And then if I win the Rite of Flame flip, I'll be able to just recast the VV, and it will be as if the Cyclonic Rift never happened. So I win my flip on the Gut Shot, targeting the Biomancer's Familiar, and it does force out the Deflecting Swat from Riley, which is great. My Into the Floodmoor feels better now. My Fairy Mastermind triggers on the Esper Sentinel draw from Deflecting Swat, and I draw Fierce Guardianship, and I'm so happy to see this card. One of the best counter spells in my deck. I feel it's really going to help me, turn this into a win, because I feel pretty strong right now. So Riley's Deflecting Swat kills off the Esper Sentinel for me. Again, a great favour. Less cards that I'm going to be given to Jay now. I float a blue mana with my VV, and the Cyclonic Rift bounces it back to my hand, and we get back to our Rite of Flame cast here, which I win, which is great. So I'm going to make 4 red mana here, hopefully. No interaction from my opponents. So I make 4 red, lose my Rite of Flame. And because I floated the blue mana from VV earlier, I get to just use that to redeploy the VV. So yeah, just replay the VV. This is why I kind of declined the draw. I didn't think the Cyclonic Rift really had a lot of impact. I've still got quite a lot of mana. I've still got my VV, so I still feel pretty good here. So cast Strike It Rich, get a Krark trigger, and a VV trigger. So just trying to make some mana here. Going to make some treasures. Going to make some mana off VV. And we're just looking to maybe cast our Might of the Meek a bunch of times, float some mana for Into the Floodmoor, or even make enough mana to get a Sakashima on the battlefield. Now that I have Fierce Guardianship in my hand, my priority is to try and get a second Krark on the battlefield so that I can start countering stuff and returning the Fierce Guardianship back to my hand. That way I can counter multiple things in a turn cycle using the Fierce Guardianship. So we start with Might of the Meek here, which we just cast, trigger our VV. It's essentially free because of VV. You know, it costs 1 mana and VV will make us 1 mana. So we win that flip, draw a couple cards, and we get Molten Duplication and Pinnacle Monk. So Pinnacle Monk's great. You know, when VV makes us a ton of mana, we're going to be able to have access to our graveyard. And Molten Duplication is also fantastic, especially considering we have just cast a Sakashima. So yeah, I slam the Sakashima. It's a tongue twister there. Make a second Krark, attack Riley with the Fairy Mastermind, and I'm feeling super good. I've got this Fierce Guardianship in my hand with 2 Krarks. I've got Molten Duplication with Sakashima, which is great. I'm going to be able to make multiple copies of Sakashima, multiple copies of VV. There's a lot I'm going to be able to do with this Molten Duplication. So on Knight's turn, he plays a Phyrexian Metamorph, which comes in as an opposition agent. Again, my Imperial Recruiter dreams are just crumbling before my eyes. You know, if I could find Dualcaster Mage, it would go really nicely with my Molten Duplication. But, you know, I think those dreams are dead now, so Imperial Recruiter doesn't really have any text right now. So, pass. Jay draws a fetch land, which is really unfortunate, into the opposition agent. Eats the land out of my bin with the Deathray Shaman. Plays a Utopia Sprawl, I think that is. One of these land enchant cards. And then plays a Kambal. If you don't know what this card is, it's a real thorn. It deals 2 damage and heals 2 life every time somebody casts a non-creature spell. And then he follows it up with a Sylvan Safekeeper. So right here, there's a consideration for me to use the Fiery Islet to cast into the Floodmoor to bounce the Kambal before the Sylvan Safekeeper resolves. But I decide against it because I really want the Into the Floodmoor for Riley's turn, and I also actually want the Kambal for Riley's turn as well. I know that Riley potentially has removal and stuff like that I don't really want him to be able to cast freely, especially when I have VV on the battlefield. I'm also going to be able to burn Riley with the Into the Floodmoor and the Fierce Guardianship, and his life total is getting pretty pressured here. So Riley activates Thrasios on his turn. It triggers my Fairy Mastermind, and I draw Crimson Wisps. Yeah, another cantrip, which is great. We've seen loads of our cantrips. And then Riley casts this Growing Rites of Itlamark, so he finally finds his Cradle. There's also an argument here for me to Fierce Guardianship this. I think in hindsight I should have Fierce Guardianshipped it. And this is a misplay coming up from me now. So Riley goes to his end step and triggers the Growing Rites of Itlamark. I respond, casting the Crimson Wisps. Just trying to draw a couple of cards, setting up for my next turn, making my VV slightly bigger, so I'm going to make more mana when I untap. But I think I neglected to think about like Riley's end step here. Making the Cradle with a Biomancer's Familiar, a Thrasios, and his Candelabra untapped. I think I should have kept up the Into the Floodmoor. I think there was a possibility here that Riley can just win just by flipping this Growing Rites of Itlamark. And I think that's another reason why I potentially should have Fierce Guardianshipped it. But I just didn't really want to risk losing my Fierce Guardianship. I really wanted it for my turn because I feel like I'm going to win if I untap. So I really didn't want to lose my Fierce Guardianship and maybe throw away my win. But I think in doing so, I gave Riley an opportunity to win here. Getting the Cradle just puts him allows him to do quite a lot here. Especially with the Candelabra, which you've just seen has untapped his Cradle, untapped his Minamo, so he's going to be able to untap his Cradle again, and now he's just spinning Thrasios a bunch. He's found an Abora Breeze Caller, there's a Mox Amber, maybe a couple other things I just missed there. But mental misstep there, kind of stings for our Crimson Wisps. And our Into the Flood more. So mental misstep, a really nice find for Riley there. Colossal Sky Turtle, I also hate to see that. That's going to be bouncing my VV, I thought. But I think Riley was pretty focused on winning here. So untaps his Cradle with the Minamo. And I really thought he was just going to pass and hold up the Sky Turtle and the other bits of interaction in his hand and stop me winning. But he continues to jam here, so it's working out for me. There's a Valley Flood Caller coming down, but I'm not too worried. We do know there's Nature's Rhythm, but there's 2 opposition agents, so I don't really think Riley can get through this. So I think he's just running out of steam here, and just hoping that Thrasios gets him there, and yeah, he just finds a land, and I think that was an Eternal Witness. And then right at the end, his last Thrasios spin finds his real Cradle, just a few turns too late. And yeah, I think Riley's seen enough and goes out on his own terms here, casting a bunch of spells into the Kambal while he's only on 4 life. So plays the Mox Amber, plays a Utopia Sprawl, plays a Mental Misstep here, and it just dies to the Kambal triggers. So I think I had a lucky escape there. I think there's a world where I do actually lose, and I'm not supposed to cast Crimson Wisps, and I'm just supposed to hold up the Into the Floodmoor and Fierce Guardianship, and hopefully that's enough to deal with Riley during his end step. Maybe bouncing the Thrasios or something like that would have been better. So anyway, we make it to our turn. I'm pretty confident here. The only problem is the Kambal. But my life total's pretty healthy, and I feel like I can get there with the cards that I've got. So I draw Mox Amber, which is great because I'm planning this move, which we see here. I'm playing this Molten Duplication and making copies of VV. So the reason I want to do this is it's going to make me a ton of mana, and it's also going to passively kill Knight while I'm actively trying to kill Jay, because I need to kill Jay before the Kambal kills me. And if I'm doing that, I'm not going to be able to also kill Knight. But if I make these VVs, I'm going to be doing a lot of damage and making a lot of mana, which is also great with the Fairy Mastermind. If I make a ton of mana with VV, I'm able to draw a ton of cards with Fairy Mastermind without having to cast Crimson Wisps and damaging myself with Kambal, which maybe is a little bit risky, but it's an option available. James doesn't really like what he sees here and is contemplating casting this Fierce Guardianship. He ends up committing and casting Fierce Guardianship on my Molten Duplication here, to stop me potentially getting it back to my hand or making more VVs. But this was the plan. This was why I held on to my Fierce Guardianship for my turn. So I was a little bit greedy not using it on the Growing Rights of Itlamok so that I could protect this on my turn. So I cast a Fierce Guardianship. It's gonna trigger my VV, trigger my Krarks, and also trigger the Kambal. So my life is slowly going to dwindle away here. So I get a odd number, so the Fierce Guardianship comes back to my hand, and then I get a heads, so I get to counter the Fierce. Great outcome there from both of my Krarks. I get to counter something for free and still have the Fierce Guardianship in my hand. So my Molten Duplication resolves, and I make a VV, and then I move on to my next Krark trigger, which I also win. and I make another VV. So I'm going to end up with 4 VVs here. I think in hindsight, when I was thinking about this game, I think I maybe should have made like a Sakashima or maybe 2, and maybe had 2 Sakashimas and 2 VVs, or well, 3 Sakashimas and 2 VVs. I think that might have been a little bit better in hindsight. It meant that my spells would be more likely to resolve and more likely to return to my hand, and I'd be able to, potentially outvalue or outdamage the Campbell a bit better with multiple Sakashimas. But I'm not too sure which is right. I think hindsight is, what is it? Hindsight's 20/20. I think at the time I felt like making VVs and making sure that the Campbell isn't actually out healing me was important, and the amount of mana that I was making was important. So I cast a Mox Amber, which is great. It triggers all my VVs, so 0 mana, deal 4 damage, and make 4 mana essentially. So really, really great there. It does cost me 2 life from the Campbell, but essentially every card I play is going to cost me 2 life from this point. So I cast the Crimson Wisps, again triggering my VVs to do some damage. I'm trying to kill a Knight here, and just make as much mana and do as much damage as I can to Jay. So we win a flip and we draw Chrome Mox, which is great. It's another kind of Mox Amber, and we get the Crimson Wisp back to our hand there. So, yeah. Pretty sure I cast Chrome Mox here, just to 0 mana, trigger all my VVs again. I think at the moment, I'm doing some math here to work out how many spells and how much damage I can actually do to Jay through the Campbell. Because essentially Jay is taking 2 damage for every spell, Knight's taking 4. And I think another realization that I made here earlier on in the game, maybe some of the more observant of you will have noticed that Jay revealed an unwanted remake in his hand. I can't remember if I cut it from the video, but earlier in the game Jay revealed an unwanted remake in his hand. He can't currently cast it because of the opposition agent on James's board, stopping the fetch land from Jay. But as soon as I kill James with my VV triggers, Jay will be able to crack the fetch land and play the unwanted remake, and it could be devastating, because if he kills my Sakashima, then all of my VVs will die, because I will no longer be protected by the legendary rule. So I'm taking that into account, and I think that's what that long think was about, how I can I need to make sure that I have enough life to cast a Fierce Guardianship and stop the unwanted remake. So I cast Chrome Mox, trigger all my VVs, and I actually elect to not imprint onto the Chrome Mox. I think, again, this is maybe a mistake. I should have maybe imprinted Imperial Recruiter, considering there's 2 opposition agents on the battlefield. I'm probably not resolving it anyway, to make a red. But it's not the biggest deal because I have so many VVs. I think mana's not really a concern. So I'm quite happy to play the 0 mana, make 4 mana. So I cast Crimson Wisps and get Heads Tails, and I draw Bolt, which is great. I really wanted to see this because it's really going to help me whittle away at Jay's life total. This Bolt's going to be the way I'm going to get his life total low enough so that he'll die to combat via the VVs. Obviously, Molten Duplication has given my VVs haste, so the bigger I can make these VVs, the better, because I'm just going to be able to attack Jay with them, and hopefully he has to block with the Campbell, and then I'm off to the races because I don't have to worry about my life total anymore. An important thing to note as well is I used the Mox Amber, and I'm using a VV here to make my red mana to cast the Crimson Wisps instead of using City of Brass and Fiery Islet, because both of those will cost me life. And at the moment, while I'm fighting a Kambal, my life is pretty important to me. So I don't really want to be using my City of Brass and my Fiery Islet essentially until that Kambal leaves the battlefield, because every point of life is relevant now. So yeah, I activated one of my VVs and got some red mana, and I'm using that to now cast Crimson Wisps. Again, just trying to draw some cards. Maybe I can draw a Cyclonic Rift and overload it, which would seal the deal, or some other way to remove the Kambal despite the Sylvan Safekeeper. So I've drawn Swansong, I've drawn the One Ring, so a bunch of nothing. There was a brief moment that I was considering if the One Ring has helped me versus Kambal. I think we might see that in a sec. Win another flip on my Crimson Wisps and draw Mystic Remora and Mystical Tutor. Yeah, so here's me reading Kambal. I was seeing if it dealt damage, but unfortunately it's loss of life. So the One Ring protection from everything actually doesn't protect me from the loss of life of Kambal. That would have been a really nice interaction if that worked, but unfortunately not. So Mystical Tutor, obviously not helping me against the opposition agents, and Mystic Remora, it doesn't look like James or Jay have any instants or sorceries to cast. So I think to cast Mystic Remora, I would just be taking 2 damage from Kambal and not really achieving a lot. So both of those cards are probably going to rot away in my hand here. So looks like I'm having a bit of a think here. I wonder if I'm considering casting Pinnacle Monk to grab back one of my cantrips, but I elect to start casting Bolt on Jay's face. I think it's time to start whittling away at that life total and getting him in kill range for my VVs to attack him. So yeah, cast the Bolt. Get Tails. And another Tails. Pretty unfortunate. So I just took 2 damage to not do any damage to Jay. Apart from the VV triggers, I guess I'll do 4 damage to Jay. But it would be nice if I could get some heads on this Bolt and whittle away at that life total, because mine is also getting down there. But yeah, after that Bolt cast, my 4 VV triggers finish off the last 4 life of Night here. So now I'm in danger of the Unwanted Remake from Jay at any time as well. So I need to be cautious of that. Make sure I've got enough life to be able to fight that Unwanted Remake using the Fierce Guardianship and the Swansong that I've got in my hand. So don't want to get too low on life here. So cast a Bolt, get Tails again. It's unfortunate. Hopefully we get a heads. Yeah, so we get a heads there. So it's 3 damage to Jay's face. Every little helps. It might not seem very relevant, but every little helps. So I activate another VV here to make some mana. Again, I don't want to use the Fiery Islet or the City of Brass, because they will cost me life, which I want to keep. So yeah, make 8 red mana. You can see that I'm constantly checking my graveyard to see if there's any way that Pinnacle Monk can help me out here, just with my abundance of red. If there's any way Pinnacle Monk can get rid of the Kambal or do something helpful, but not at the moment. So we're just going to continue to cast the Bolt. There's potentially a world where I'm supposed to just activate all my VVs and activate Fairy Mastermind a bunch and try and draw into Cyclonic Rift or some other way, because this would be a way for me to draw cards without triggering the Kambal. But I think my sort of heart is set on attacking with these VVs now and hopefully winning via combat damage with this army of big wizards. So Jay does end up cracking the fetch land and finding a white source, so I'm a bit nervous about the unwanted remake here, killing my Sakashima and just everything going away. So cast a bolt, get double tails, so again, no damage is done, which is pretty unfortunate. I think I'm having a bit of a think here, because I'm only on 9 life now. I think one thing that I'm thinking about here is if Jay has Solitude or Endurance in his hand, as he'll be able to evoke those and Ghost block one of the VVs, or potentially even use the Solitude to get rid of the Sakashima. I kind of have the confidence that he doesn't have Solitude, because I think it would have been cast a lot earlier to get rid of my Sakashima or to get rid of my VVs. I think if he had Solitude and he's waiting until I attack to use it, then yeah, he's a braver man than me. I think I would have used that much sooner. So I'm still wondering about Endurance though, just being able to block one of these VVs. So again, I'm trying to do as much damage with Bolt as I can before I go to combat, because I think if Endurance comes down and blocks one of these VVs, I'm not going to have enough in the tank. So cast a Bolt here. This is going to take me to 5 life. So I'm probably a bit too low. I need to keep my life to be able to cast the Fierce Guardianship and the Swan Song if I need to. So yeah, the unwanted remake comes down now, targeting my my Sakashima. So yeah, I play the Fierce Guardianship, and at this point we kind of just have to pray that we get heads. There's a world where we just get 4 tails in a row here, and we just die to Kambal, and that's just the reality of it. But you know, the chances of that are pretty slim there. I'm happy to take those chances, and yeah, we're rewarded this time. We get the heads to counter the unwanted remake, and then we get the tails. So the Fierce Guardianship comes back to my hand, and I've got 3 life left. So there's 1 extra spell I'm able to cast. Kambal only does 2 damage. And this is really important. This is why I didn't tap the Fiery Islet or the City of Brass. Imagine earlier in the turn if I had tapped those, I would have been on 2 life right now, and I actually wouldn't be able to cast any more spells this turn. Or any non-creature spells without immediately dying to the Kambal. So, really happy I, noticed that and decided to, keep my life as high as possible. So, yep, just pointing out the Molten Duplication, giving my VVs haste here. So, I've got quite a lot of damage to throw around. I've got a 16 power and 3 11 power, and also the Flying Fairy Mastermind that I can chuck in. So I'm just swinging everything at Jay here, and I'm pretty confident, apart from the chance of Endurance. Jay obviously doesn't really know this, but I probably do just lose to Endurance here. But without Endurance, I'm pretty confident here. Either Jay has to take 2 of these VV hits and immediately die, or he has to block one of the VVs with his Kambal, at which point I'll just be able to go to my second main and just win super freely without the Kambal pressuring my life total. So I think Jay's just working out the blocks here, but without Endurance, without any extra stuff, it is just curtains here, because Jay can block 3 of my VVs, and then he'll take 2 damage from the Fairy Mastermind and 11 damage from one of the VVs. So he'll be left on 3 life. The Kambao will die, and I can just cast Bolt and trigger all 4 of my VVs and wipe out the rest of his life. Okay, and that's the game. So, managed to claw out a win there, declined multiple draws, hopefully showcased the kind of thought process that I went through during the game. This is the first time I've done this, so I've tried to cut out a lot of the boring bits of the game, and so maybe it's a little bit choppy, maybe it's moving a little bit too quickly, so maybe I'll work on that if I do some of these in the future. But hopefully you get the idea, a more practical way, more hands-on approach to teaching the deck and learning how to play this really, really fun deck. Obviously, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes in this game, I've made mistakes in other games, and doing these replay analyses will help me as a player, but also, yeah, hopefully help anyone else that's looking to pick this deck up and give it a go. So even if it's not perfect, hopefully you learned something, or picked up a cool combination of cards, or learn a mechanic or something that you can use in your future games. Yeah, hopefully I'll be making more of these in the future, and hopefully the quality will increase as I do them. So yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, check out cEDH UK for a great community if you want to get involved and come and play some games and chill out.